From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicki.
Vicki. We're missing everybody else. They're ditching us.
No, they've got things happening right now. So
more important than racing?
But
no way.
Yes.
No.
More important than podcasts at the moment. They're just on a hiatus at the moment, but they will be back.
All right. Whatever. All right. We're just going to have to go solo. You know what's going to make up for it? We have a guest.
Oh, really?
We do. You have indirectly attended one of his events. And you
have.
And you didn't even know it. He is the manager of Track Night in America for the Sports Car Club of America, otherwise known as the SCCA, jokingly referred to as the Secret Car Club of America. We'll talk about that too. He has a champ car racing team that is called Team Baby Shark. And no, it has nothing to do with race bar, so they're probably good. And his name is Justin Barbry. Welcome to the podcast, Justin.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone.
Sorry, we had a little bit of a hiccup coming in, but we're coming out of it now. We've techno-amished our way through this one. So one of the things that our podcast is good at is not setting up everything ahead of time. But one of the things that we are bad at is I am not the best at doing intros. So for those of our listeners who may not be familiar with you, could you kind of give yourself a little bit of a background that I didn't cover?
Absolutely. Aquarius.
Nice. Long walks on the beach. Walks on the beach.
Living in North Carolina, kind of been there my whole life. And just enjoy racing. I once said that if it's got four wheels and a steering wheel, I'll drive it. There are some exceptions to that, but generally speaking, I just love being behind the wheel in just about any capacity. And, I found a real home in amateur racing and amateur track events. And I'm living in North Carolina is kind of a hotbed for that sort of stuff. We're right here in NASCAR country. So there's a lot of good tracks and a lot of good enthusiasm around racing. So it's been kind of a gift to find, and just really happy now to be a part of an organization like the SCCA and a program like Track Night that is reaching out and sort of bringing even more people into the sphere of what we do.
So just to start off with you just personally, how did you get involved in racing? I mean, how did you end up where you are now, basically, but where was your starting point?
I was a bit of a late bloomer when it comes to motorsports. I think the real foundation of it came from basically flunking out of college and then finding out that I really like to work. And I found work at motorcycle dealerships. And what was cool about that is you had a motorcycle and the whole team would go out and ride on the weekends or whatever the case may be, go to the racetrack and have a track day with the motorcycles. And at one point, I realized that riding 10/10 on a motorcycle was a bad idea, especially the older you got. And it got to the point where my body couldn't take it anymore. And I like to tell people now, I haven't fallen off my race car once. So leaving the motorcycle industry and kind of found a guy that was doing autocross and said, hey, you should come out to an autocross. And I had a Mazda Protege 5 at the time and came out, and halfway through the first run, I was like, yep, this is it. This is what we're doing. So started getting heavily involved in autocross. This was in the early 2000s. And by 2006, I was at Solo Nationals. And, by 2013, I think I was running a nationally prepared autocross car. And 2016, I went into road racing and started racing an improved touring car with the SCCA and also doing a little bit of champ car when I could. And then just started working in these track events where I was coaching originally doing novice coaching for Track Night in America, and then got sort of pulled into doing a lead role, which is leading the events, keeping up with the staff and the scheduling for my events at whatever track I was working. And then middle of this year, they needed somebody to sort of take over from the manager position, and wound up here.
So do you have any further goals after this? Are you pretty content, or are you going to kind of head all the way off to NASCAR?
No,
I mean, you are in NASCAR country.
I have found a really, really great home here. It's something that I talk about pretty freely with people that ask, is that beforehand, especially coming up through autocross and the national competition, the level of dedication and the competitiveness that goes into that is a whole nother level and a whole nother world. And I was happy there for a long time. And I know a lot of people continue to be happy there. I actually found another sort of mode to switch into, which was being a facilitator of these track events and being on the sort of staff side and watching other people get involved, especially as a novice coach for these track events, watching people that had never been on track before, sort of the light bulb go off, and then sort of realize how exciting and how awesome it was to be able to drive their car on a racetrack. So I really just fell into that role as a facilitator and loved it just as much as competing. So I am, while I still like to compete and still love to drive, I am super happy with this position and being able to get to the events and see the people just participate at whatever level they're comfortable at. So future plans, no, I'm super happy where I'm at. My previous job was as a 911 dispatcher. I did that for 17 years. So,
Almost
this
the
is
same as now.
Yeah. This is there's a lot more smiling faces that I get to see and work with in this sort of career than something like that. So I'm very happy to be where I'm at and very lucky.
Wow. It sounds like you just get a lot back out of it just by showing up.
Yep, absolutely.
I think there's a give and take in it, but rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's it strikes at a special part of a personality. Basically you get what you put into it, you get back. And I've definitely found that with this program, because we have so many experienced people that come and just enjoy the track on the weekday evening, but we also have so many new people that come in for the first time. And that's really what we've seen, is just people that have never had any expectation of being on track. Sometimes they'll come and they'll just, from one event, they'll either just see what it's about and hang out in the paddock, or maybe do the track touring laps that we do behind a pace car, sometimes in the middle of the event. And then the next event, they've registered and they're out there driving, they've brought their helmet and they're ready to go, because they see how easy it can be. Because I think that was what the real barrier is. People just think that there's all these hoops they have to jump through to be able to drive any car on a track. And we've sort of modeled the program on trying to reduce that barrier to entry as much as possible.
So I really like asking this question. Do you have a philosophy when it comes to your racing or things involved in racing?
With the track night program, our mantra is pretty much turning enthusiasts into participants. Looking outside of track night to my own personal endeavors. There's definitely two sides of it. Earlier on, when I was highly competitive, it was all about just competition, like spending hours on the car, hours in the garage, tweaking every little thing, finding the last little tenth. When you're looking at national autocross, it's tenths of a second, thousandths of a second that you can drag out of, whatever you're doing. Now that I've got more into road racing and endurance racing with SCCA and other organizations, it's mostly about just going out there and having a good time. We're not out there racing for pro contracts or, sponsors or whatever that is. And I like the low pressure that comes with that. Just being able to go out there, operate at your own level and be proficient in the moment, but not feel like I have to get this thing done or make this pass, or, I'm not going to have something to drive at the next race. It's
right.
Much more laid back, and it's, we're just out there doing it for fun.
So I like that.
So as the manager of Track Night in America, we thought it might be a softball to start off, and just with your position, could you kind of go over what Track Night in America is?
Absolutely. And don't think for a second that, I am merely the steward of this program now. The program has really had a foundation of phenomenal people come through and build this program, since 2015. I am just lucky enough to be the steward of it now. Track Night is basically a track event program that does, for all intents and purposes, track days, but they're more like track half days. Usually they are weekdays. We start, gates open usually between noon and 2 o'clock. Our first session is hot on track at 4 p.m. And we usually wrap up somewhere between 7 and 8, depending on how much daylight we got left. We run a fairly minimal staff, where we have basically an event lead, 3, maybe 4 coaches, and an admin. And we go out and we put 3 different groups on track for 3 20-minute sessions. And it's basically a way for people to go out and get on track without having, to spend an entire weekend at the track or, that sort of long event entry fees. You can get out on a weekday, take a half day off work, go out, blow off some steam, have a nice time at the track. It's somebody who was way smarter than me called it cars and coffee, but on a racetrack sort of vibe. And, that's what we've been trying to do.
So why start the Track Night in America?
I think it came down to seeing that there was this huge group of people out there that had sports cars. To put it frankly, you look at all the Mustangs and Camaros and Corvettes that are sold, even Miatas and those smaller vehicles that never came to a track. And what could the SCCA do to get those people involved at a base level? They were buying cars that were built basically with the performance of being able to be very exciting and very manageable on a track, but they weren't showing up to the track. So I think they tried to make a program to bring those people onto a track that maybe would have never thought of being there, even though they had cars that were, the perfect vehicles for doing it, but they had never thought of using them that way because either they just didn't have the path to get there, so to speak, or they didn't have the knowledge of how to do it. So they worked on making a program that just dropped all those barriers down to what could be considered the bare minimum, so that these people who had never thought of taking their car on a track can experience that and then see where it goes.
So we've both been to the event. I've been kind of an instructor with the event, and Vicki came and participated. So we both have gone to. I've been to a few, and Vicki's gone to her first one. Who is this really aimed at? Is it aimed at the guy who's currently racing, or the girl who is currently autocrossing, or the girl who is, strictly does the school run, or the guy who's never driven a car, or who do you think is the prime target or the targets for this?
I think it's easier to list who it's not for.
Okay,
than
we'll
who
take
it's
that
for.
Too.
What we try to avoid is people that are bringing out race cars merely to test or to get practice before an event or something like that. We're trying to maintain a program that is mostly based around street cars. We do allow race cars in on a waiver, and usually those waivers are granted for people who have a crew member that's never been on track, or a new driver that has never been on track, that they have a car like a spec Miata or a spec E30 or something like that, and they would just rather those people be out in a caged vehicle. But for the most part, this program is for anybody that has a vehicle that's safe to bring out on a racetrack and experience it. So it's actually way easier to list what we typically don't allow to come out than what we, who we want to come out.
Do you need to have a driver's license? Do you need to have a permit? Do you need to, where would the line be age-wise, I guess?
Yeah, so we do require driver's license.
Okay.
You need to be able to operate the vehicle without a passenger in the vehicle. And basically, if you've got a driver's license and a helmet that, without going into the complicated helmet rating systems that are in effect in these days.
Yep.
Basically a Snell rated helmet that's 2010 or newer. Then you can pretty much take your car and get out on the track.
Very cool.
So what is the minimum car prep that is needed?
So we have a tech sheet that is, you can either find online when you register, or it's given out in the packets when you check in at the event. And it's very, very typical of your HPDE or track day style tech sheet, where you would go through and check off, all of the things that you would normally check over on a vehicle. It's a self-tech program. We do encourage people that are thinking of bringing their cars out to at least put some thought into the braking system. Most cars, even in stock form, their safety systems and the reliability of those safety systems doesn't require a whole lot of checking by, a tech or something like that. They're going to work. But the things that most people overlook are things like, reliability of the brakes. They don't think about changing the fluid or the pads to something that's a little bit more robust, especially, where I'm from in the Southeast, it can get quite hot in the summertime. We're thinking of engine cooling or something like that, just basic upkeep. So the tech sheet is something you would probably be most familiar with from any of the HPD style tech sheets that are being filled out and for those events. So there's not really anything tricky there. I mean, we've had bone stock vehicles come out and be just fine. And we've also had vehicles that, have seen some parts modified and they're fine as well.
What about driver prep, just in general? I mean,
What should they be expecting? What should they do?
Absolutely. We always say, hey, bring a snack. It's one of the interesting things about our program, snack and water, because if you're on track from say 4 to 8 p.m., that's right in the middle of dinner time. So we always like them to, bring a snack, bring some water, stay hydrated. But other than that, is some of the tracks will have specific rules about maybe they have to wear long pants or something like that. But for most of the events, bring a helmet, bring clothes, bring a car, and you're going to be fine.
Just wear clothes, please.
Yeah, and you're going to be fine.
Right.
We don't require anything special unless you're getting up into, if you've got a vehicle that is modified fuel system or something like a race car that we'd have a waiver for. Typically we would prefer those to operate with all the driver safety systems, including, what the driver wears to be intact. But for regular street cars, what you're wearing around day to day is perfectly fine.
It sounds like a place where if you want people to go and visit when they want to get their yayas out.
Right.
Right. Just see what they got. Let's see what we got underneath the hood. Just, Yeah.
And it's we have 3 different levels of experience that we group for. So we obviously have a novice group who can be anywhere from someone who has never seen a racetrack before on up to, maybe somebody that's done a couple of events. They just like being in the novice group because of the passing rules that are in novice group or the extra coaching that the novice group gets. And then you have your intermediate group, which is just a step up from that. And then we have an advanced group. And, each one of those groups sort of has its own personality. The advanced groups are usually going to be your seasoned track people. They don't require a whole lot of hand holding. They kind of know where to be and when to be there. And when something happens or they see a flag, they understand exactly what to do. And you don't have to hover over them too much. Intermediates are a group where you kind of have a mixed bag. You're going to have some people that have some experience and they probably are running, pretty decent pace for their vehicle, but you're also going to have some people that may just be coming out of that novice experience group. And now they're going up into the next level. So you've got a little bit of a mixed bag there. And then of course, our novices, which we have a special coach that is just for the novice group, and they spend a lot of time with them before their first session. In between every session, they debrief. So they get a lot of insight into things that went right for them, things that went wrong, and really just help them feel comfortable with what may be their first time ever on a track.
So what are the goals of the event? Yours your goals and the participant goals?
Well, I think the most important goal is that we want everybody that came as a participant for their car to go home in the same shape it arrived in, if not better. And we don't want anybody to have a bad day at the track. So that's, one of the things. We don't have trophies. There's no rewards. I tell people Roger Penske's not hiding behind a tree looking for the next, driver for his program. Just go out there and have a good time. This is not the program where you're going to be pushing the limit or exceeding, your comfort level, because there is no reward for doing that. So it's all about just going out there and having a good time and being a good teammate with everybody that you're on track with, and all working together.
And bringing your car home in one piece.
And bringing it home in one piece.
Like we like to say is keep the shiny side up.
Right.
The best Italian tune-up ever.
Yeah. And I think from a staff position, and our coaches on the ground, what they want to bring home from the event is just knowing that everybody that they were in contact with had a good time. Mm-hmm. It's all about the experience and the participation for everybody. We do have to operate within, a safe program. So there are things we can't let people get away with. And you do have to rein that in when it's appropriate. But, if everybody's out there having a good time and they're all operating on track in a safe manner, that's what we want everybody to have, is just a good time.
So you're not taking extra fees to get the scouts to come out and monitor my driving. So, okay. All right. That's fine. But to me, this was always seemed like a really great way to get that person who's never been or has had that, a lot of people have the misconception that they can't drive on a track. They aren't sponsored. They don't have a cool car with lots of numbers and stickers. Although if they want stickers, they just have to come by and see us. We give them away all the time. But so it's a great way to get out there. But what if Track Night in America really strikes a chord within somebody who's there? What is a logical next step in your mind?
I think one of the best things, keeping within the SCCA sphere, is the time trials program that the SCCA offers. For lack of a better descriptor, the SCCA time trials that have been started up in the last couple of years and is now going really strong is basically Track Night in America, but with transponders. So we almost use exactly the same sort of experience groups, the same, with a little bit of a tweaks, the same passing rules, with a little bit more leeway because it's time trials, so it's more of a competitive environment. But the coaching and the style of coaching and the style of interaction we have with the participants is very, very much like Track Night. So if people are comfortable in Track Night and they like that environment, but they may want to see what that feels like with a competition element, the time trials program is an excellent next step. And if they want to stay with what we're doing and it not be a competition environment, then stay with us, hang out with Track Night, and just, we go to, 34 different tracks. I think it may be 35 now, 150 some events a year. You can just keep going to different tracks with our program if that's something you enjoy, just being out on an afternoon or an evening, and just let's make a point to see as many tracks in your sphere as you can.
So do you have instruction on the track?
So we don't do in-car instructing. And even for the novices, each group has its own coach, and that coach will operate from pit road. And if we see any issues or we need to have a discussion with any of the participants that are out on track, we can get them into pit road with a black flag. So that's how we sort of operate. We kind of let the participants, and there are some differences with the novices. We do work with the novices a little bit more on making sure that when they go out on track, they are ready. They get a very long briefing about everything before they go out that sort of gives them all the baseline information to get out there and be safe. But for the other groups and the other participants, it's more about, going out there and working good as a team. We really push the everybody's on the same team sort of philosophy, because when you're dealing with a track, with 30 cars on a track, and everybody has to work together to manage that traffic. You may have some slower cars, you may have some faster cars. everybody that's out there in that group has to work together. So in the intermediate and the advanced group, we really push having that team philosophy so that everybody sort of operates as a team on track instead of in competition with each other. And that seems to smooth everything out. And then any issues, we are not very lenient with errors in driving, I should say. So, if somebody puts two wheels in the dirt, I'm expecting them in pit road to have a discussion with the coach to, tell them why that happened, why they were driving over their limit and couldn't stay on the track. If you have a spin in the middle of the track and you're able to continue something like that, come in and talk to the coach. And the little joke that we have is that, we'll give you a chance to self-report. So if you make a mistake and you've messed up on that lap, come on in, tell us, hey, you made a mistake. It'll be a real quick conversation. Are you okay? Is the car okay? Are you ready to go back out? And send them back out. But if they go around for a lap and they don't come in and we have to black flag them, that conversation may be a little bit slower and they might lose a little bit more track time. So it gives them an incentive to, even if they mess up on track, no harm, no foul, come on in. We just want to have a quick chat, make sure you're okay, make sure the car's okay, and get them back out there as quickly as possible. So we do monitor for those types of safety issues, or just a little bit of a, what we call driver error. And, we do talk to those drivers if there's an instance of that, and make sure that everything's okay. And then if it works out, we can send them right back out.
So I know what I want to ask you.
Bring on the hard questions.
I know.
We have no hard questions, just hard.
No.
Hard hosts.
How many groups of Track Night in America are there? Is it only on the East Coast, or does it cross over?
It sounds like it's America.
Well, no, I mean, does it go from here to California?
So we do. We have tracks almost everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We do have, most of the events are East Coast. That's sort of just a population density sort of thing. The East Coast is very big on having a bunch of tracks that are accessible, and also having a bunch of tracks that are near populated areas. So it makes it real easy. But we do also run events in Portland, Oregon. We do run events at Auto Club, which is Fontana, California, outside of Los Angeles. We have 3 tracks right now in Texas that we run around the Austin and Dallas area. We have 3 tracks in Florida. And so we do hit the corners. But the Northeast is very big. We have multiple tracks in the Northeast. I could spend the next couple minutes trying to remember them all. The only places we're a little bit light is probably places where there's just not a whole lot of population, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, those sorts of areas, where they're just, we would love to run events there, but making them financially feasible, because, there's just not a whole lot of people there to come to the event, or if they were to come to the event, it would be a long drive. But the areas where it works and there's a good tracks and a good concentration of people, we have events there.
Okay. So what types of in-class instruction do you have?
So
what do you basically go over?
So for the novices, which is probably the most in-depth one, before they ever go on track, we have a brief meeting, which basically introduces the staff, introduces their novice coach, so that there's a little bit of camaraderie there. And hey, this is your person. This is who you can count on to be there for any questions throughout the event. And then we go over, before they go out for anything in a session, they have a pace lapse. So they're going to go out behind a pace car to see the track and see where all the man corner stations are, see where the passing zones are, that sort of stuff. So we do have a short briefing before they go out on that to describe what they're going to be looking for, what they need to be concentrating on. Go out there, send them out for 20 minutes, let them just circulate behind a pace car at 45, 50 miles an hour, keep putting all those things in their brain. And then as soon as they come back from that session, there's a much longer meeting that goes over what we expect as far as them working together as a team, what a point buy looks like, how to manage traffic, all the intricacies of doing that and doing it properly, which we're not expecting to get it right on the first try, but we're going to get the information in there. And then once they go out there and give it a try, we can correct any mistakes. We go over the flags. Now in our program, we only use 4 flags, other than the checkered flag. The 4 flags are basically a yellow flag, which means the same thing it means in pretty much every racing program, which is, some type of event, caution style event where you're going to have to figure that out. And my favorite saying for that is, it's some type of event that is a safety, some type of incident that is a safety issue. Just figure out what it is and don't make it worse. That's what the yellow flag means. We have a passing flag, which is the blue flag with the yellow stripe, very common. The black flag, which is, in SCCA, we use that as you're coming into pit road, whether you see that pointed at you as a singular car or a black flag all situation where everybody's coming in. And then, of course, a red flag in case we have any incidents that require immediate EV, so we can get everybody stopped safely on the track and get that out. But those are the only 4 flags we use. So we keep it very simple. There's no debris flag or meatball or, we feel like with just 4 flags, we can make it a much simpler program and still get the point across, because it's not a race. If we have an incident that we need to get a car off the track, we're just going to black flag the session, bring everybody in. If it's early in the session, then we can clean up whatever the issue is, get the mechanical off the track and send everybody back out. If it's late in the session, we may just bring everybody in, send them in the paddock, and then add a little bit of time to the next session if possible. So we try to keep the flags as simple as, the simplest version we can to keep the confusion down. So a little bit of a tangent there. Sorry. The novices are going to get that flag briefing. And then my favorite part of the novice briefing is we're going to talk to them about how awkward their first session is going to be. And it's really cool because I've done a lot of novice coaching at a lot of different tracks in a lot of different parts of the country. I've everywhere from, South Carolina to all the way in Portland, Oregon. And that first novice session, no matter what part of the country you're in or what track you're at, you always see the same things.
Really?
It's usually about 2 or 3 laps of people that are really, really just not comfortable of where they are or what's going on. They're all operating safely. They're driving
they're questioning their choices right now.
They're driving well within their limits. They're just trying to figure out what being on a racetrack means for them and what they need to be paying attention to. And then after about 3 laps, you start to see some traffic management happening. You start to see them become more comfortable and pick up the pace a little bit. And, once they're out there for a couple of laps and they can see what a point by looks like, they understand how to operate as a team and work traffic management. And when, a corner worker's throwing a blue flag at you, that's what it looks like. And, this is what it means.
I just want to interrupt for a second. I just love how excited that you're getting while you're explaining this, because you are just like sitting up in your seat. And you're just jazzed already. I can tell you love what you're doing.
I love novice coaching. I absolutely love it. And I love the reaction that I see from the drivers out there, because you can see them becoming more comfortable. You can see them learning. And then, so that's going to be their first session. And like I said, the novices get a whole lot more, a whole lot more. I'm trying to think of the right word. This is where my brain goes blank. They get a whole
tender loving.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. They get a whole lot more of that from their novice coach. So after their first session, when they come back in, they're going to be brought back over and have a debrief of that session. And this happens after every session that they do. They have a debrief. So you get to talk about, what they did right, what they didn't do all that great. And then what they can look forward to or work on for the next session. So there's very much this progression of giving them the right information at the right times to help them get through the event. Now for, intermediate and advanced, sometimes intermediates need a debrief. Sometimes they get out there and they just forget everything. And you have to kind of rein them back in. That's I think being an intermediate coach is almost the hardest job in track night, because God bless our intermediates. There's a lot of great participants that are intermediates, but sometimes you get one that has the experience to be really, really quick driving a car, but they may or may not have learned that expensive lesson yet.
Oh yeah.
And what we don't want is for them to learn that expensive lesson with us.
Right.
So sometimes the intermediate coach has to be really, really on the ball. And if there is an issue, sort of nip it in the bud fairly quickly.
What it's like excitement outpaces skill.
Yeah. And for an intermediate coach, it's all about not letting that get away from them.
Right.
The intermediate coach is very much looking for problems early on, and then getting those corrected as quickly as possible, getting those expectations reestablished for the intermediate group so they don't get away from themselves. And then advanced is mostly about just making sure that you don't have anybody that is in advance that shouldn't be there. And for the most part, people that don't get classed into the right experience group, or they misrepresent themselves when they register for the event, they become really, really obvious really, really quickly. And
really?
Absolutely. Because especially in the advanced group, you have so many experienced people that are really good at operating on a track in this environment. Anybody that is slow to point by, or a little bit squirrely, or not driving up to what I would consider advanced standards, we all can parse that out for whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
They become really obvious really quickly, and it's a real simple conversation. You black flag them if that's the case, bring them in, say, hey, I think you might be better off operating in the maybe in the intermediate group. And I've actually had pulled some of them down to novice before. And what's very interesting about it is that they are relieved. Because once they got out there and realized, what the level of the people they were around was, they realized really quickly that they probably shouldn't have been there. So see, that's an easy one. Most
Right.
people think that, that's the difficult part, but that's actually the really, really easy one, is
Mm-hmm.
finding the outliers and then getting them into the proper group.
So, what nights do you normally have? Is this a weekend thing, or is this a weekday thing?
It's almost exclusively weekday, and
Okay.
most of that is just because the tracks are cheaper to rent
Mm-hmm.
than the weekday, and there's more availability during the weekdays, especially in the evenings. It's just not a time frame that most other organizations are using the track at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps us a little bit financially to be able to put on the events, because we're being a low barrier to entry also means we're trying to get it at a price point that is something that people can handle.
Mm-hmm.
And running Daytona on a Saturday night is not a price point that most people are going to be able to handle. If we did offer it at a price point they could handle, there would be so many cars on track that it wouldn't be any fun.
Mm-hmm.
So putting it on weekdays gives us the best balance of, we can reduce the number of entries that we need to make it work,
Mm-hmm.
and get the price point down to a point where it's something that people feel okay about and feel that it's worthwhile doing. And weekdays are just the best way to do that. We do have a couple of events that run on Friday evenings. Usually those are in conjunction with maybe a test day for a regional road race or something like that, where we will run on a Friday after the test day. And that's kind of actually really cool, because as the participants are showing up, the test day is finishing with all the GCR legal race cars going around, so they get to see a part of that. They kind of see what all that looks like and what it sounds like and feels like. And then as soon as the track goes cold on the test day, we're sending out the novices on their pace lap and getting ready for our event. So it's kind of cool to see all that sort of blend from one right into the other. And I think even some of the road racers are sort of stand at the fence and watch sometimes, because they're like, oh, I didn't realize that, I can do this with a street car, or my wife can do this, or my girlfriend or my daughter or son can go out there in their street car and just, without having to go through a driver's school or put them in a race car and in that
Mm-hmm.
environment, they can go out there in this much more laid back environment. So I like it when we can sort of mix in with other programs going on, because I think a little bit different view from the paddock when you're looking at our event, because it is different than your normal, what the SCCA is known for, which is, road racing competition, autocross competition. We're just out there having a good time.
Yeah, they can kind of witness the crossover.
Yep.
Yeah. So how long does your event last?
We usually have about 4 hours that we are hot on track.
Mhm.
And we'll usually open the gates about 2 hours early. We can get everybody checked in and through all of that in, about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then we spend those 4 hours basically just running through our sessions. And usually we're off the track before sunsets, because once it gets dark, that's normally what we're fighting, especially early in the year and late in the year, is making sure that we start early enough and run on schedule so that we're done by dark. Because it's, no matter what car you're in, I think from knowing endurance racing, it's just not as much fun when you can't see where you're going.
No.
And it's not as safe either. So we try to be out of there before it gets too dark. And that's really, the one big struggle from a lead scenario in our program, is that we don't have the flex time that is sort of built into a road race weekend, where, if you have a delay, or part of the track gets oiled down and you have to go out there and clean that up with oil dry, and you lose 20, 30 minutes, we have to be done before it gets dark. So we're much more, try to be much more precise and efficient with our time that we spend. And if there is a cleanup, we do our best to make sure that we get that done in a proper amount of time and get our participants back out, because we just don't have the flex time like other programs do, because we're fighting the sunset.
It seems like it's a good event for people just to start dipping their toes.
Yep.
Figuring out what it is. So how many cars usually show up at an event, or what is the minimum or maximum that you guys have at your events?
So we have a formula that is based off of, and there's some voodoo math going on, that is sort of based off the track length. And this is very similar to a road racing, where there is a maximum number of cars you can put on that track before it becomes unsafe.
Right.
Our formula is much more based off of, how many cars can we put out there without it feeling crowded to start with. And some of that is based off of, is mostly based off the length of the track, but it's also based off of how many passing zones or potential passing zones the track may have.
Oh.
So how many straightaways there are, how long the straightaways are, because tracks that don't have long passing zones or don't have a whole lot of passing zones, we're not going to be able to put out as many cars on that track, because the traffic management would just be too difficult to manage a larger number. So I think our minimum on some of our shorter facilities, shorter tracks, is somewhere in the mid-20s, 24, 25 cars. And then you get up to places like Daytona, where I think the minimum number may be closer to 40 cars in a group.
Mm-hmm. Oh, in a group?
In a group, yep.
Or 40 cars in a group, or like in a whole setting?
So 40 cars in a group. So that would, be
okay.
120.
3 groups.
Yep, with 3 groups. So 120 entrants total. And
it's still pretty open though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there is a point at which you can just, put so many cars on track that it just isn't fun anymore. And we try to avoid that. And,
because they're driving some of them are driving their real vehicles. They're not like cars that can take a hit and then keep going. These are people that are driving home with these same cars.
Right. And, the one thing we don't want is car to car contact.
Right.
There are going to be instances where people, fail to maintain the pavement and it can find things to run into. But, what we don't want is cars just on top of each other on the track, which is why we coach the point buys and the passing and the traffic management and the teamwork so much, because what you're ultimately looking for in our program is just a clean little section of track where you can go out and have some fun and play around with your car and not have to worry about, the car running up in your mirror and being an issue for, your whole session, or you running up on somebody and being close to them or being wheel to wheel with them. That's what we don't want. We want the traffic to be managed as quickly as possible so that everybody can get back to doing what they were doing in their own little space without too much conflict.
Mm-hmm. So Now, this is another thing because our podcast, it definitely is that gateway to getting people off their sofa, off the street, and onto a track. So we're talking the same language here a lot. So one of the questions I want to ask for our listeners who are interested in getting off their sofa and getting off the road is what would be the minimum things that they should bring to the track for their car?
Excellent question. And I think the first thing they should probably do is if they go on the whatever event they're trying to get to, when they go to the registration page of that event, there will be a download for the tech sheet for that they will have to fill out and turn into us before they're allowed to go on track. And that is pretty much going to hit all the highlights of what they need to make sure their car has. So, they're going to check off a box that says their tires have good tread and are, not dry rotted, and their brakes have been checked and the fluid is good. And, there's no issues. We try to, not have mechanical issues on track. So we want to make sure that you check the oil and check the coolant and done all the things that, most people overlook. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I don't know when the last time I checked the oil in my daily driver was, but, we just want them to go over all the things that could trip them up on track. So a good list is there in that tech sheet. It's, like I said, it's very, very much the common things that when you go through the list, you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what this is. There's not going to be anything in there to trip you up. And then it also, on that tech sheet, it also lists, the helmet rating that you're going to need. So you can check that box to make and look at your helmet and make sure that your helmet is proper for our event and ready to go. Other than that, all we ask is just, make sure that you've got enough water and sustenance to get you through a couple hours on the track, which is usually a lot more than people think it is.
So they shouldn't have something like maybe like a tire pressure thing or maybe I am a big fan of absolutely bringing Windex because when you're out there, you never know when you start getting glare or when you get something, so that
sounds like the toolkit of the traveling autocrosser.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have like this little basic thing, like, I mean, for me, it would probably be a good idea to take something to, say, for instance, like a mini lug nut set or like a lug tightener.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's all, very good suggestions. And I think it's very personal to how comfortable you are with working on your car. We do have people that, even if they, even if they had a tire pressure gauge, they may not know what pressure to set the tires at. We do have some really good information that has been given to us from Tire Rack and from Grassroots Motorsports on, what you should be looking for and possible potential base settings and things like that to start out with and check. So, the way I always look at it is if there's a tool that you need at track night and you don't have it, go ask the person paddock next to you because they probably haven't.
And I did that because I show up and I think I'm only going to be riding for like 4 hours. I'm not going to need anything. Next thing I knew, I needed a socket set. So these great guys that were driving a bunch of Miatas, I just walked over there. I'm like, hey, can I borrow your socket set? I'm having a trouble here. So
most of our participants are driving their cars to the event, and a lot of them are bringing the bare minimums. They pop out and toss their floor mats and their spare tire out in the paddock, and they're good to go. But we do have people that trailer their cars just because that's what they like to do, or and those people usually have they've been doing it a while, or they sort of know the game, and they will have the things that other people may have forgot or didn't bring. But if you have the knowledge and the wherewithal, I think something like a tire pressure gauge and that's really probably the most important thing, because if we don't spend enough time on track, if you have a major mechanical issue,
right,
you're going to spend more time in the paddock fixing it than it's probably worth. And we are pretty gracious on our, if you miss some sessions, we're going to give you credit for the next one. So, we don't want anybody to feel like they're forced to go out on track.
Right.
So if there's an issue with your car, you have a mechanical or something, if they come up and tell us, hey, look, I'm going to miss the last session because such and such happened. Hey, send us an email, tell us what happened. We'll probably give you a credit for the time you missed, so that when you come back out, it'll be, you have a credit in your account to be able to do that.
So now, speaking of credits, how much would a track night cost for our people getting off the sofa?
We have a little bit of a spectrum, but so there are some tracks that are more expensive than others. Daytona is a very good example. And then we have some tracks that are excellent tracks, but they're more of a club, what we would call a club racing track. And those tend to be a little bit cheaper to rent. So I think, honestly, probably the lowest that you're going to see is probably about $150.
Okay.
There are some discounts that come through our partners, where they will offer coupons periodically through the year. Most of the time they're $25 off. You also get a discount if you're an SCCA member. So there are some things you can use to get the price down a little bit more. And then an event like Daytona is probably going to be around $200.
But it's Daytona.
It's Daytona, but also you still can use those same coupons to work the price there a little bit. Daytona is an interesting case because we have sold out every single event at Daytona. And it's not the only track we've sold out, but what is interesting about Daytona, and if anybody listening to this is interested in coming and running track night at Daytona in 2022, get signed up early, because our wait list at Daytona is generally just as long as the list of participants getting into the event. So
right now, as we are recording this, it is November entering into December, and Christmas is coming. This makes a great Christmas present. So there is no excuse for you guys not to get off the sofa.
And excellent segue into, we do have a Black Friday holiday special that is coming out. I don't know when this will be released. I don't know how quickly you can edit this.
It sounds like I'm editing it tonight. So, okay, no pressure.
The good news is that it will be running from there are two sections of the program of the holiday special. We're going to do from Black Friday through Cyber Monday. We have a $150 gift certificate that comes with a $25 bonus coupon and a free track night t-shirt, all of that for $150. And after Cyber Monday through December 10th, we will have the same $150 gift certificate plus the track night t-shirt. Now, the way I'm hoping this works, I'm not saying this is the way anybody has to do it, but this is my hope, is that first deal from Black Friday through Cyber Monday, you buy that $150 gift certificate and you get that $25 bonus coupon, and then you decide which one of those you want to keep and who you want to give the other one to.
Ooh, so you got to get your wives in.
So
that's the secret.
Yeah, so that's
the CFO involved, baby.
You've got a gift for yourself. Keep the t-shirt for yourself. But you've got that $150 gift certificate and you've got that $25 bonus coupon to give to somebody else as a Christmas present. Or you keep the t-shirt and the bonus coupon and you give the $150 gift certificate to somebody you really, really like.
See.
So that's my hope, and I hope people take advantage of it, because like I said, get it, sign up for our event. If it doesn't work out, you can't make it, there's a mechanical issue to your car, you've got some type of other thing happening in your life, that you're not going to lose that money. We are going to say, we're really sorry you couldn't make it to this event. Here's when the next one is at this track. Your entry is there if you want it. So we are as customer friendly as we can be without everybody going broke and having to eat crackers.
Well, I personally really enjoyed the event when I had gone to NJMP. I thought it was.
I was curious which track. Which track you'd gone to.
Yeah, and even though we live in PA, northern PA, NJMP is kind of like a home track for us. It's easy to get to.
Which one do you like better, Thunderbolt?
Yeah.
Thunderbolt. There's really only one there, but we do the other one too.
Yeah,
that's good data. I will
Lightning.
note that.
Lightning Lightning's a good track, though. I mean, it's good.
I think the majority of our events there are going to be on Thunderbolt. That's typically, I think, which one we run mostly. So
yeah.
Lightning, you could get some cars, especially some of the newer cars. They could be going pretty quick going into turn one.
Yeah, I actually got to go and work one of our events at New Jersey. I can't remember if it was late last year, it might have been early this year, and that was my first time ever being to the track and being to New Jersey, and I thought that was super cool. I actually really like that facility a lot.
The track cracks me up. It really does.
I really like the little subtle elevation changes.
Yeah.
And then there were some really cool visual things about the track. I'm very much a visual driver. And I thought some of the visual sight lines and things that you had to pick up with your eyes in order to run the proper lines to the corners, especially somebody had never been there, I thought it was really interesting.
It's not an overly complicated track. Only in a couple spots. But it's definitely a fun track to be on. And it's a great place. Plus they have the pub is right there. You can go over there for dinner right after,
Yeah. It was I believe it was New Jersey. I had a funny story about, I think it was definitely New Jersey, the pro shop there.
Yep.
And I can't remember her name, but the very lovely lady who was working in the pro shop, all I was trying to do was get out of there with like a Gatorade.
Nope.
And I think I walked out of there with like a Gatorade, a new little convex mirror from my roll bar, and a t-shirt and maybe something else. And I had to fly home. So it's like I had to make sure I could get all this in my luggage. And I remember walking out of there and I told Tom O'Gorman, who I was working the event with, I was like, that lady is a sniper. Like, she is dangerous.
And they have everything.
They do. They have one of everything.
Yep. So if you see her, tell her that I will never forget that she was an excellent salesman and knew her job very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No, it's a good track. It's a fun track to be at.
It is. So if you were interested in going to one of your Track Night in America events, where would somebody go find out about it?
Well, we make it as easy as we possibly can, like all things track night. It is tracknightinamerica.com.
Okay.
We are hoping, I can't say exactly when the schedule will be up. We are still working out some scheduling. We have the added sort of deal where with the SCCA, we have the Track Night in America program. We have the Time Trials National Tour program. All of the national solo programs, and then not including, all of the regions' own track events and time trials and things that the regions do with their club racing. And we try not to step on anybody's toes. We all try to work in the same environment without, working on top of each other. So the scheduling can, take a little bit of work to sort of hash out and make sure that, we can operate our events without it interfering with anybody else's events. And, that takes a little bit of time as all the programs sort of work out their schedules. So I'd love to say we've got it ready and, it's going to be released before Christmas, but it definitely takes a little bit of time. And, I'd expect probably a word out something, beginning of the year. So
we can wait. It's worth it. So, I got to help out a couple of events and, I wouldn't say it was instructing, but it was kind of ambassadoring, I guess.
You were on my email list, I believe.
I am. So since you're obviously scraping the bottom of the barrel, if somebody was interested in helping out at an event, what would they do?
So we are getting ready to, we just put the final touches on it, and it may be going out in a newsletter. So people that are in the SCCA sphere can find it really easily because they're probably going to get something in their inbox. We have a staff application, and you found it, obviously, because that's how I found you. So basically, it's just a thing to go through, list, all of your pertinent information and what you would like to do within our program. And then that is, sent to me and I can look through it. If you aren't part of the SCCA sphere and you're not getting that email, if you go to tracknightinamerica.com, the very top where we have all the tabs, there is, one that says contact staff, I believe, and under that drop down, it says staff application. Go in there, fill it out, and it goes into a spreadsheet that I look through. And, we are doing a pretty large staffing push for 2022. I'm looking to add, quite a few coaches and leads and admins at almost everywhere we operate. So all over the country. So if you are interested in helping out in any way, that's the first way to get on board with what it means to be staff for Track Night America. We do have some other ways that I think may be interesting to some people. Obviously, you can volunteer, and we love our volunteers. We give them, we don't give them the difficult jobs. We like to be easy on our volunteers. We'll, help us out in grid or in check-in, checking helmets, making sure they've got the right ratings on them and stuff like that. But we also have what's called Run Work. And Run Work is where you're going to go through our registration process, just like any of the other drivers, sign up for Run Work. And you're going to work for 2 of the sessions, whether it be in grid or, helping out on pit road or whatever may be the case. And you get to run 1 session, and it's a reduced fee. We only allow 3 of those per event because we don't want 50 run workers. That would just be, too much to manage. So, but if you are interested in sort of dipping your toes, so to speak, into what it may mean to work these events without having to fully commit to, staff, hey, I want to work this a little bit, but also be able to drive my car on track. That's probably an excellent way to sort of see that from both sides.
Yep. Be lovely to get a few more female instructors out there as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Vicky's coming. I'm warning you.
I'm coming.
We would love that.
That's right.
I've actually had a chance to, when I was there, even though I was not volunteering, I was driving. I was asked to go over and talk to a woman driver who was having a really difficult time with the track. And I know the track. So I was kind of helping her around some difficult spots and just like, you got any questions? This is how I tackle it. So, but I think one of the instructors said, hey, could you go over and talk to her? Because I think it might be better coming from you. So I'm like, okay, sure.
In our program, it's not so much about your entire depth of knowledge when it comes to coaching. It's so much about your personality and just being able to deliver the right information in the right way. We have coaches and staff that have been road racing for years and multiple different programs, multiple organizations. We've got Tom O'Gorman, who was really at the core of this program starting. I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure he just about wrote our entire novice program. So there's a lot of credit to Tom, and he still comes out and coaches and leads event for us, and he has pro racing experience. But we also have coaches who have only been on track in the track night experience, and they don't really have that racing background. And that's awesome. And it's perfectly fine because, it's not so much about how much it's just about how you work with our participants and the personality. It's so much more about the connections that you make and not about just being able to dump a bunch of information onto somebody.
Right. No.
So apparently I'm going to be editing this evening, but
I am so sorry for that.
Let's get this out. Come on.
All
It's
right.
Christmas.
All right. So wait.
Do it for the children.
All right. So
The big children.
So you're making this longer. I don't stop. I just keep going. So if you know someone who has never been on track, especially the family CFO, always helpful to get them involved in the sport. If you had somebody at work who asks, like, what are you doing out on track? Perhaps this is a way to get them to figure it out. Your children, your mom, your dad, just about anybody. We'll take you all. Come on out. Let's have some fun. It's way too much fun to sit on the sofa. This is way more fun. And you barely have to take a day off. You just take half a day off. It's easy. That's right.
Yep.
And you could get some stickers. It's awesome.
And we have photographers that come out to almost every single event. And part of the package that we work out with them is they take a picture of every single car that comes out on track. And you have access to one of those photos for free. And you can obviously work with those photographers to get packages if you so desire. But that's just another thing. A lot of people are looking for that glamour shot of them being on track and, in their car and doing something cool. And we're willing to
we like to say, We like to say, you get a nice photo so you can hang it in your bathroom.
Yep. And I've been really impressed with our photographers.
Mhm.
They do such a great job. I am not a photographer by any means, but I know the type of dedication and skill that is involved with that. And
Mhm.
so if you're looking for a really good picture of your car on a track, there's no cheaper way than coming out and enjoying a track night with us and then getting the photo for free. So
There you go.
It's fantastic. Great way to start.
Great
If
way to
auto-
start, guys.
If you don't have something personal against those little orange cones and don't feel like running them over with autocross, the gateway drug. This is the ultimate gateway drug on a track. So highly recommended.
I'm very excited just hearing it.
I know. And you go on track all the time.
I do.
and you've obviously seen how excited I am about just
I
being
know.
able to be a part of it.
I know.
He's
Two
just
of you were
sitting
all
up in his
bubbles.
seat. I know. We're all just look at us. We're like little kids.
Believe me, as a program manager, my day job is spreadsheets and calendars and things like that. This is way more fun than what normally means to be a program manager, for track night. So
Well, if I have any hope of getting this out in time for your Black Friday sale, no pressure at all. We're gonna have to do a
Send it.
rain
Just
check.
send it.
We're gonna have to do. All right, fine. I'll send it. We're gonna have to do a rain check on our Fast and Furious Storytime questions, which we will pester you with next time you come on.
well, you're going to be super glad that you did that, because nothing in my brain works fast or furious unless I'm driving a race car. So
These are
there would
all.
be a
these
whole
are
lot
all
of me
great.
staring blankly into the screen with
No
my
worries.
brain trying to come up with the right answer. So
No, you'd be surprised. These are all car related. So
what color car do you drive? If it gets any
No.
more complicated than that,
tiny bit more complicated, but not too much. So
Okay.
we will do a round 2, a second lap.
rain check.
Exactly.
Rain check on that, absolutely.
Rain check.
We'll call it a Black Friday sale. So anyway, thank you for tolerating us again, sir. Sorry we had
This
a little
is-
bit of hiccups on the beginning.
No, this has been awesome, and I really look forward to hopefully doing it again and maybe
Mhm.
seeing you in person, maybe in New
Mhm.
Jersey. We have to keep in touch and see where you guys are going to be.
That's
Yeah.
fun. That's fun. We will I will have this out. We have one set for tomorrow. I will have this out for Thanksgiving Day. This will be out.
Oh, that would be cool.
No worries. We'll
There
get it
you
I
out.
go.
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No
You're
problem.
welcome.
Thank you. Next time we'll have you on with a little bit more lead time before you spring something on me. Hey, I'm giving away a free Ferrari if you get this out in the next hour. Okay, no pressure. We're good.
No pressure. It's good. Justin,
Hey,
thank
I
you.
didn't schedule
so
this.
much.
You did.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's always
No,
me.
thank you guys. I really appreciate it. It's been
No problem.
Mhm.
Thank you. Have a great night.
fun. Yes, sir.